How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Let's talk about how to become one of the top 1% of Bitcoin holders, how to become one of the richest people in the world, how you should be looking at Bitcoin, how much Bitcoin you should get. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on your situation a little bit, but I want to go through some different thoughts, some different things that you can do to try to set yourself up to be very successful with Bitcoin. I know it's kind of a quiet time right now, but it's usually quiet right before the storm comes. So let's talk about that. If you don't mind, hit subscribe so you can see future videos. Also, if you do want to trade crypto, people use houses to leverage. That's how they get really good returns with houses. If you want to leverage with Bitcoin, you can do that with the link underneath the video to WEEX. There's also a link to Blowfin as well. They have a 10% cashback bonus. There's also a link to BTCC, and they do a 10% cashback bonus as well. Now, I was going to make a video talking about some of the big events this week, and maybe we'll do that later, but I really want to talk about kind of a broader concept, which is how much Bitcoin should you have, right? I know everyone's financial situation is different, but let's go through a couple different milestones. Obviously, 0.01 is a significant milestone. Everyone is trying to get there first. That's really the first milestone, besides maybe like your first buy of anything, right? Maybe you load $10 onto Coinbase and you buy 0.01. Seems like a significant amount. It's $850 right now. This is more than most people will ever own. Most people will never be able to hold that, because when you divide 21 million, which is all the Bitcoin that's in the world that will ever be created, divided by 8.2 billion people on Earth, which is the estimate for population, you get 0.00256 Bitcoin. So most people will never be able to get 0.01 Bitcoin. And to be clear, a lot of people hold a significant amount of Bitcoin. I mean, there are hundreds of people that hold thousands of Bitcoin. So not everyone can have an equal amount of Bitcoin. There are some people that see the opportunity and want to snatch up as much as possible. So 0.00256 Bitcoin will get you more than most people on Earth. Will get you the average that people could have, but that's not going to happen for most people. 0.01 is obviously a big psychological milestone. Just knowing what Bitcoin is and also understanding that it's not shares of Bitcoin kind of sets you in front of the pack too. A lot of people say, like, how many shares of Bitcoin do you have? Bitcoin doesn't have shares. It's a coin, so it's a token. It's not a stock. So when you start learning about this, you're already ahead of the curve. Even if you don't hold Bitcoin, you're still already ahead of most people. But to actually accumulate Bitcoin is where you can take advantage of the appreciation, because there is a set supply. So after 0.01 Bitcoin, you start thinking about, like, okay, well, if I want to be above just like someone that could put their emergency fund into Bitcoin, or like $1,000, right? Maybe they make an extra $1,000 from some side job. How do I get past that point, above just the casual buyer, someone that has it maybe on Robinhood, has $1,000? What's that next milestone? Well, I think you have to look at 0.21 Bitcoin. Obviously, 0.1 is a significant milestone too. Psychologically, it's 10 times 0.01. But 0.21 means that you will be one of the 100 million people that can ever buy that amount. Right? There are 21 million Bitcoin. If you buy 0.21, most people will never be able to get that amount. Honestly, a lot of millionaires won't be able to buy that amount either. They're estimated around 60 to 80 million millionaires. Keep in mind that there are 21 million Bitcoin. Let's say there are 80 million millionaires and 20 million Bitcoin. That means that every millionaire can buy 0.25. But again, some billionaires hold thousands of Bitcoin. Some Bitcoin are lost too. So let's say there's maybe 10 million Bitcoin that are ever going to be exchanged. And maybe a couple of years from now, by the time you get there, there's 100 million millionaires, especially with inflation and asset prices going up. Okay, that's 0.1 Bitcoin. 0.21 Bitcoin is important though, because again, if all the Bitcoin is ever dispersed, you're one of the top 100 million people that can ever hold 0.21 Bitcoin. Also, I started talking about 0.21 Bitcoin. Actually, when Brian Harrington started talking about it, it was when Bitcoin was right around 50 to 55,000. And 0.21 Bitcoin is about $10,000 worth of Bitcoin. Now, it's obviously a bit more. It's more like 17,000, 18,000, 19,000. And It's a bit different now because it's harder to get. Back when it was $10,000, there are actually a decent number of people that have $10,000 of cash in an emergency fund, especially if they have a house. So there were a significant number of people that have that, but now we're looking at like $15,000, $20,000. It's getting more expensive as time goes on. I know Bitcoin's come down a little bit, but it has become more expensive. And you start thinking a year or two from now, 5 years from now, okay, Bitcoin's at 300,000. It's going to be extremely hard for people to buy 0.21 Bitcoin. $300,000 worth of that means you would have to buy $60,000 plus. I mean, that's a nice new Tesla if you bought it in cash. That's how expensive 0.21 Bitcoin will be. So 0.21 Bitcoin right now, I think, is achievable for some families out there, some like upper middle class families, but it becomes harder and harder. And it kind of puts you in an elite club because, again, there are going to be a lot of people that have $10,000 in a bank account, $20,000 in a bank account between, like the next 30 years. But not many people will be able to get up to 0.21 Bitcoin. Again, not even the average millionaire will be able to buy 0.21 Bitcoin in the future. And then you start looking at like, okay, well, what's this Bitcoin going to do for me? Am I going to hold it forever? Maybe not. I mean, if you want to spend it on something, a lot of people want to buy a house, but a lot of people complain about how expensive houses have gotten because they have gone up. They've appreciated by 4% a year, and you're talking about a large asset that is very expensive. And interest rates have also gone up. So the affordability of homes has gone down significantly. But priced in Bitcoin, it's gone down significantly. I know that this is a pretty big chart, right? We're looking at all the way back to 2011, but if you just look here, over the last even like 5 years, home affordability has gone up priced in Bitcoin. If you go 10 years back, it's really crazy because a home cost 1,152 Bitcoin. Now it's under 7 Bitcoin. So that is a 165x difference over the last 10 years. I don't think Bitcoin's going to appreciate as much in the next 10 years as it did in the last 10 years. So I don't think it'll do 165x versus houses, but let's say it does a 16.5x. It does 1/10 as well. That means it would cost roughly 0.5 Bitcoin to buy a house. I don't know about you, but I'd be okay with that. I would be very happy with Bitcoin doing a 16.5x versus the housing market. Keep in mind that would be over 20x in terms of Bitcoin's price, which would put it well over $1 million. But that would make it so that you could buy or put down a down payment for a home, the average U.S. home, or the median U.S. home, with 0.1 Bitcoin. It would be worth 0.5, but you could put down 0.1 Bitcoin for a down payment. Keep in mind, this would be a $600,000 house that you could afford with 0.5 Bitcoin. That would be buying the house in cash. So yeah, you will be able to buy a lot of things in the future with Bitcoin if it does what we think it will do. And then another way to value Bitcoin or to think about your holdings in Bitcoin is a percentage, right? We're all on uneven playing fields. We all are different ages, with different incomes, with different histories, with different goals and spending habits. So maybe you should think about it as a percentage of your cash or a percentage of your net worth, right? I mean, sometimes you have assets that you just can't offload. If you're a business owner and you put in the equity of your business, or you have a home and you need somewhere to live, maybe you don't want to think about Bitcoin as a percentage of your net worth, but maybe you do. Or maybe you want to think about it as a percentage of your cash, right? If you're holding $50,000 in cash and $5,000 in Bitcoin, your ratio is 1-10. Maybe you want to make that a little bit closer to 50-50. Maybe you want to go more aggressive with Bitcoin. Keep in mind, you still want an emergency fund and all that, but that is one way to think about it, right? Changing your dollars that can be inflated and are inflated every single year by the powers that be, the manipulators, changing that into a hard asset that is not manipulated in terms of the supply. Of course, it is manipulated in terms of price, but that brings on more volatility, which brings on more chances to buy at depressed prices. So in a way, that's really good if you're a buyer, right? That there's manipulation. But this is one other way to think about it, right? In terms of, again, percentage of your cash. How how allocated are you to the hard asset that will appreciate over time versus the soft asset that is going to depreciate over time. So again, I know I threw a lot of things at you, but you can kind of approach it how you want, just some different ways to think about it. Again, 0.00256 Bitcoin is what the average person on earth could buy if everyone were equal and the Bitcoin was just dispersed evenly, right? Via socialism or something like that. Another way to think about it is 0.01 Bitcoin. It gets you above the person that's casually throwing in $100 at one time into Bitcoin. But it's just a first step. $840 is fantastic, maybe if you're younger, but if you're someone that has a lot of assets, you probably want more of an allocation to Bitcoin. 0.1 is another key psychological milestone. 0.21 is key because it gives you a chance to be one of the top 100 million. Again, if it's dispersed just between 100 million people equally, but it's not. So you'll be probably amongst the top 10 million people, I would say, if you have 0.21 Bitcoin. If you have 0.25 Bitcoin, you're going to have more than most millionaires ever have. And then you can start thinking about it in terms of what it can buy you, right? A house maybe one day. And then you can also think about it in terms of your cash, right? And maybe you never want to buy a house with Bitcoin. I totally get it. But it's important to still think about what this Bitcoin will do for us down the road, what it will mean in terms of other assets. Because at the end of the day, right, you kind of want to live life. You still want experiences. You still want items. You still want things like that. So it is nice to know that you can convert. And then also, again, just in terms of how much you want allocated to cash or to other assets versus Bitcoin. Not saying that it's better to go all in on Bitcoin, because a lot of people that do go all in on Bitcoin make a mistake because they can't hold on to that kind of volatility. They have maybe a significant other or kids, or like something comes up and they're not able to hold on to it, and then they freak out, Bitcoin goes down, and then they sell at the worst possible time, and there's a mental block. So I'm not saying to go all into Bitcoin. I'm just saying you've got to consider what your goals are. I think it's important to take Bitcoin 0.01 at a time, or each buy at a time. Like, just continue to focus on stacking if you want to grow it over the long term instead of trying to time in and out of the market. Of course, if you have accumulated a large amount and you already have a large percentage of your net worth into Bitcoin, maybe you want to buy other assets, maybe you want to diversify because it has gone up a significant amount. That's kind of where I'm at, right? Bitcoin's gone up so much since I bought it that I am looking to diversify outside of Bitcoin. But if it keeps going down, I'm not worried. I'm not going to sell it at depressed prices. I'll probably start stacking more. I look for key opportune times to buy and to sell. And during bear markets, I don't look at it. I just set a DCA, continuously buy. But in bull markets, I do lean off of that. I do wean off of it a little bit. But of course, you can make your own plan. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you all soon. Check out the links to WEEX, BTCC, Blowfin, and Hotcoin and BitUnix underneath, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.